Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast series. I think last time we talked about how our freshman year went, and now we're moving on to the new year, our sophomore year. Oh boy.
Let's go.
Oh man, your mic is. Whenever you scream, the mic just gets deep fried for a second. Like, when you talk normally, it's fine, but when you freaking scream it, it's not that good. Um, so yeah, I mean, sophomore year was definitely a year, that I tried to get more involved in things,
Yep.
and in some ways, it actually benefited for me, and in other ways, it kind of slapped me back in the face.
Do explain.
Oh, we will first, but I just kind of want to we got to start with how the high school retreat went. That's how we're gonna start all of them.
All right. Okay.
So we're in a new place this time, right?
Yeah, a different place. See, what was the theme? Oh, it was that this? No, that wasn't superheroes, was it?
No, I thought that was junior year.
Was it?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah,
sure? No, it
yeah.
wasn't. Superheroes was sophomore year because
Oh
I
yeah,
had
no,
Zach.
cause
Zach King was
Zach
my
King.
senior
Yeah,
year in my group.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
you were right. You're right.
yeah. I'm always right. So
Oh well. You know what? Yeah, yeah, sure.
okay.
um, yeah, go ahead. You could talk about your group first, I guess.
Okay. My group was okay, I guess. We did have Zach King. He was pretty cool. And then I think we also had Jonathan, maybe, as another senior. But anyway, so let's see. What did we start out with? We got there sophomore year. We were setting up our where we sleep, the cabin situations.
Oh yeah, weren't we with the freshmen like too?
Were you there with
Yeah, I
me and
was.
Jacob?
Yeah, I was there. No,
Yeah.
like all the sophomore guys and freshman
Oh,
guys were in the
okay. No,
same
you're
room,
right.
and we had Mr. Hembroth and Mr. Hunter
Yeah,
as the people.
we didn't have that. Well, me and Jacob didn't have that because they ran out of room in that room.
Oh,
So they moved me and Jacob. They moved us with Joel and Jake Wilkie. So
that actually sounds fun. That
and
sounds
I
like a
think
lot of fun.
our dean was like Mr. Schneider or something. I think
Oh, again?
something like that. It might have not have been though. I
Was
can't remember who
was
our
he
teacher was.
more was he like less angry this at you guys
I
this time?
hardly even remember him being in there. I think because we were all in one room. Like he didn't get his own room, so I think he might have
Hmm.
he was in there for hardly ever. Like just when we were sleeping, he would come in and sleep.
Oh, okay.
But that was it was Jake Wilkie's first year, and
I
he he's a great guy, right?
Yeah,
But
he's the best, man.
when uh for some reason he was like trying to set the tone, I guess, and he wanted to be known as like kind of a tough guy. Don't mess with me, because I think he came from a private or a public school, so
Yeah, yeah. I
so he was.
remember like I was talking to Legend and I'm like, "Do you like know any of these new freshmen?" And I'm like, "Well, I just met Jake Paul over there." And like points at Wilkie. And so for a while I just kind of knew him as like Jake Paul Jr. for a
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
But no, he's a great kid. He was
He
actually a
yeah
pretty funny guy. He's a
he
pretty
slept
funny
with
guy.
me, Joel. I think it was Dominic too, maybe, but I'm not sure.
Oh, nice.
There was more freshmen than sophomores in that room, but Jake was sitting in a chair over in the corner with his hood on, just sitting there, like with his arms crossed. And then in the middle of the night, he was like whispering stuff. He's like, "You guys better not touch me because I know something. I was like, okay, Jake. And so I thought he was like really weird, but then like the year after I actually got to know him. He's a great guy. I like Jake. He's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said earlier that you thought you had Dominic in your cabin.
Maybe,
He was
maybe
actually
not.
in mine. He was actually in
Yeah,
mine. And here's
yeah,
why I remember. So the lights were out, right? Everyone's trying to sleep, and Dominic is like, I don't really know what he was doing, but he was like doing a bunch of loud stuff. Mr.
yeah.
Hunter, he pulls out a gun. Now it's not a real gun. It was like a pellet. Not, it was like a airsoft gun.
Yeah.
He full on serious face, just slowly power walks over to Dominic, points the gun at him, and just shoots him. Making Dominic scream even louder, and then everyone in that cabin was dying laughing. Like it
Didn't he
was,
shoot? He shot Hembroff too, didn't he?
I don't know. I don't. That would not have been a good idea. It would have been like a battle of the titans between those two.
I remember a story about how Hembroff was like snoring or something, and then
Oh,
Mr.
dude,
Hunter shot him.
that. Okay, so I remember, I like could not sleep. I could not sleep at all. Like, it took me like 2 hours just to fall asleep. And then we
Yeah,
had to get up early and like I had to get up early because I joined soccer that year, which we'll get to soccer later. We had to get up and like do our little run.
yeah.
And so I probably only got like 4 hours of sleep that whole night. And then I remember during breakfast or something, he like walks up to like our like sophomore group and he's like, "Did you guys sleep last night?" And Caleb's like, "No." And then Mr. Hembroff just starts laughing, and I'm like, what was running through my head, because I was still like really grouchy that morning. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
you are a stumbling block to my sleep, and you take that as a joke. Like, I don't know. I just got like really heated up over that. I didn't say
Is
anything, but like in my head, I just had this mental fire burning up.
do you remember his son, um,
Jacob,
Jacob Hemmeroff?
yeah,
Um, he was freshman year. This is going back a little bit, but
yeah, that's fine.
we were on the pep band trip, and Jacob Hemmeroff, he was a senior, but he was in pep band because he wasn't in basketball that year. Uh, so me, Jacob, not Jacob Hemmeroff, but the other Jacob.
Hmm.
So me and Jacob were in one bed, and then Jacob Hemmeroff, since he was a senior, he got his own bed, and he snored like so loud the entire night. And me and Jacob were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't sleep." So
Did he have to be in that room with you two since you guys were freshmen?
yeah, he was like our
Oh,
watcher, and he was the senior,
dude,
so it
I
sucked for him.
I would hate to do that. I would hate to be that guy. I know Ethan, Josh, and Caleb got to be those guys, but then I
Yeah,
actually got to be in a room with Jacob
we
my
got
senior year. And I was like, "Let's
a
go!"
room with the boys.
And
Yeah,
then yeah, we can
so
talk
anyway,
about
so
those trips later. Those trips we'll get more
our,
into
our
detail later.
solution, our solution for his snoring was I went and I flushed the toilet and it woke him up, and then he rolled over and he stopped snoring. So anyway, retreat. So anyway, where were you? Something about
So I
Hembroff snoring?
talked about Mr. Hembroff joking about keeping everyone awake and just kind of left it at that. You should talk about your the skit you guys did this year.
Sophomore year skit.
Yeah.
Oh, it was garbage. Oh, so we did superheroes,
Who was your
So
superhero?
our superhero was Spider-Man.
Ah, dang it.
So
Dude, that should have
we
been
had
mine.
Spider-Man. Zach King played Peter Parker,
Okay.
and I can't remember. Some other guys played some other teachers, but they thought it was a good idea for little sophomore me, who was, I'm pretty quiet
What
around
character did you play?
older, especially back then. I was Mr. Schneider.
Yeah, you were Mr. Snyder in freshman year. I remember
So I
that.
had sophomore year. So I had to be like super loud. And they're like, "Oh, just scream." I'm like,
What?
How much? Do you
You
know who
cannot.
I
I
am?
have I have never heard you scream at least half as loud as I have. Like
I
a lot of times you go like, "What are you doing?" Like that's like the loudest I've ever heard you. Like
well in
ever.
in basketball practice, they used to want us to scream like, "I got a ball," and I would try, and I was like, I don't scream
You and
loud.
Jacob were like always the quiet ones during
It's not like I
basketball.
wasn't trying, like I didn't want to scream. I was actually, but some people just don't scream very loud. I guess I don't know. So I was screaming, and then Coach Falk, you're not screaming loud enough. Anyway, so we were the skit. I did pretty good as Mr. Snyder, but I messed up at the end because I wrote math because I said my lines and they were good. People were laughing, but then I was supposed to write the end on the little whiteboard, and then that was the end of the skit.
Oh, so that's
But
why it ended so
it
awkwardly.
ended weirdly because I wrote math on it. So I wrote math, and Zach King's like, bruh. And then I walk out, and then that was it. And then everyone was like, just sitting there.
Dude, I remember. So I think Infinity War came out that year, and it was like, the big scene at the end is when Spider-Man like gets dusted along with everyone else, and he's like, "Oh, Mr. Stark, I don't feel
Yeah.
so good." And I remember you guys actually did that,
Yeah,
and
we did that.
at the end
That
of the
was fun.
skit, you guys are like, "Oh, there's Peter," and then you had like a plastic bottle of sand, and
I can't even remember.
like
That was probably one of the best skits I was in. My senior year skit was pretty good too, but
yeah.
I'd say sophomore year was definitely
Did we
second.
do a skit junior year at all?
No, because I was in house leadership, and
Oh yeah.
I sent out a notion that we should get rid of skits for this year, and then they were all like, "Yeah, okay, let's get rid of skits." I was like, "Sweet."
And then they brought
Our
him back
goal.
the year after.
Yeah,
It
yeah, they
really
did.
backfired on us too. And then so my character was Doctor Strange, and I
Yeah,
remember like out of all the characters we could have gotten, because I knew like I was a little disappointed when we got Doctor Strange. Like we didn't get Iron Man or Captain America or especially Spider Man, and
yeah.
so I was like, whatever. I mean, I can't really
I mean,
think of.
Doctor Strange is cool. He's cool.
I mean, yeah, he's cool. He's just not as popular. But
But
anyway,
he's cool.
I don't want to talk about heroes for the whole podcast. I remember Sam West was Doctor Strange in our skit,
Oh, I remember
and
that.
you know that Vine released like maybe 10 years ago now, where it's like that little girl dancing. It's the Take on Me song. Where it's like ding, and he like turns around with the
Oh,
glasses and
yeah,
smiles. He
yeah,
was
I know
supposed to do that, except his timing was off because when he pulled out the
that.
glasses from his pocket, his wired ear- Apple earbuds were in his pocket too, and they were getting all tangled up in the glasses. And so as he puts the glasses on, those things are still tangled on, and he does the thing. And like it was at that cue when all of us were supposed to jump up and start doing like these weird dances or whatever to them.
Yeah.
And then so yeah, that kind of sucked. And then I remember at the very end of the skit, Sam took a pie and just threw it at my face.
Ooh,
And this other
that's rough.
kid's face, this other senior's face, Carson. Yeah,
Ooh, that's
dude.
rough.
Yeah, me and him got hit pretty badly. So then I
Yeah.
had to go outside and wash my face off. I mean, the ending was kind of funny, I guess, because everyone's like, a pie in the face, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So that it wasn't too bad actually. It was definitely it was way better than my freshman year one. That was for
Yeah.
sure.
Freshman year one for both of us was trash.
Yeah,
Those skits.
yeah. Both of ours really. I was about to say, Josh was actually supposed to sing everyone a song during our freshman year skit,
Really?
and he didn't do it. So
Why would you make
Josh, if you're listening to this, I'm calling you out, buddy. You should have sung the song.
why would you make a freshman sing a song during
Yeah, I
like
understand. On
in
no,
front of
it's
in front of
I'm
the
just
entire high school doing a little skit?
I'm kidding,
Everyone's there.
Josh.
Teachers are there. and they're like, "Hey, you little boy, sing a song in front of everybody."
Yeah, nah, it's okay, Josh. I'm not, no grudges. I would have backed out of it too. Love you, Josh.
I was
No,
supposed to say, "Remember the class trip on the Titanic?" my freshman year, but I didn't
oh,
because I had the 19 teens, But
dang.
anyway, what else?
I think that's really. There's nothing else I really
We
have.
had, we had,
Like, to be honest, I didn't like the night game this time.
yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. The night game. It was
Yeah.
trash.
Yeah, just straight up trash.
Trash. So like we were supposed to go. It was like a what are they called? Scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
But it was boring. So we had to walk around the entire campground and find teachers, and they were like hiding some of them, and some of them weren't hiding, but you had to find them all and do their little stuff. And you did all their little stuff, and then you get this little card, and then they mark your hand like you did the stuff, and then
Yeah.
all I remember. Oh wait, was that? Oh no, that was junior year.
Yeah.
That was junior year. Yeah.
We junior year was okay. We're gonna save that one for the next one because we got something special. Yeah. We got a big story to tell for the junior year retreat.
I mean, you probably
no, don't give too much away. Don't give too much away. But yeah, I remember there was things like staring. There was a Kelvin was in my group, and he was actually doing like a staring contest with Mr. Tinkham, and like. Since the theme of the year was like Marvel heroes, and Mr. Tinkham was wearing like a Walmart Iron Man suit. But what actually impressed me was his like the thing in his chest, the arc reactor, that actually like glowed. And so during the staring contest, Tinkham was supposed to have like an advantage, that kind of thing, for the staring contest.
It lit up his face like, like spooky kind of.
Yeah. And so like Kelvin did that one, and then we were doing this other game where you had like this piece of ice, and someone had to make it melt as fast as possible. So I don't remember which girl it was who was in my group, but she puts it in her mouth, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, it's too cold," and then Kelvin has her like spit it out, and he puts it in his mouth.
Bruh,
and then I don't know who the third guy was that did that, but he also like did that too, and so it was just nasty, like super nasty.
We had one guy, I can't remember who it was in our group. It might have been Zach, but I'm not sure. But he just popped it in his mouth and like ate it.
Yeah, I would have. What I would have done is just try to smush it with my hands and like make as much friction with my hands as possible, and because I hate putting cold stuff on my teeth, because it like you ever like eat ice cream with your front two teeth? It's like
my teeth aren't that sensitive. I guess I don't really have that problem.
Oh, I guess that's a problem for me. But yeah, I mean those are basically the night games, and I remember someone from our class asked me, any suggestions for a night game next year? And I'm like, don't do what we did this year.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, that year was so bad that junior year, before school year started, I was part of leadership and we voted it out. So we just, they're like, so Mrs. Feffight was like, so are we doing a night game this year for junior year? And I was like, no. And then like 2/3 of us raised our hands for no, so they just didn't do one junior year.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk. Let's save a bit more of those details for later. But yeah. So let's see. I think that might mark the end of our retreat. Yeah. So, is there anything else we need to talk about that?
I can't think of anything else. The soccer run during retreat, I think it was pretty normal.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
We just went for a little ways, came back.
Yeah.
So the next thing to talk about probably soccer.
Yeah, let's go over our soccer season. So this was
soccer season.
Yeah, it was pretty great. Neither of us were on varsity, but I still remember, like, even though I kind of sucked because once again, it was like my first year doing a sport at all. Like,
Yeah.
dead ass. No cap. This was my first ever sport. And I gotta say, like, eventually, I actually did manage to get pretty good with my handles a little bit. And just being able to use my speed to my advantage at the time. But that was pretty much all I really knew how to do. And I would just kind of play wing all the time, and Jacob would go, Carlos, you gotta do this, you do that. And I'm like, okay, Jacob, thank you. And I would just, and Jacob would always like tell me what to do, which I find kind of funny, because like most of the time I couldn't hear him, because you know how like Jacob isn't gonna yell.
He's not loud.
No, he's not loud at all. So whenever Jacob says something, I was like, wait, what? What did you say? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And I remember we were playing against Whitefish. And there was this really, really short kid on the team, but he was super good. Like he had great handles, and he was pretty fast too. And I remember Mr. Tinkham, who was our coach at that time, he was like, Jacob, I want to put you in the middle position so he can run in between your legs.
I like Mr. Tinkham. He's fun. Yeah. No, you keep going.
And I was just about to say, this was also my first year of experiencing the pain of the excessive running we had to do too.
Yeah.
So we did like the beep test, and I didn't do that good, but Mr. O'Rourke said I did good for someone who like never played at all.
Yeah.
And my 2 mile, I did so bad on my 2 mile. Actually, I got like 15:45 on my 2 mile. Like,
I got a pretty bad 2 mile too. I think freshman year on. Okay. Just for some background for the listeners. So in soccer they have 3 main. Is it 3? Yeah.
3
main conditioning things, and you do each one. Sophomore year we did each one probably about once a year. So, so the first one we would always do was a 2 mile run, and you had to run 2 miles. And to be on varsity, you had to do 2 miles in 13 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yes.
And then the JV like starter thing was
there was really but it didn't really matter, because if you didn't like make the varsity time, you're gonna be on JV anyway, so it didn't really matter that much, unless if you wanted to like get more playing time on JV.
Basically, but it kind of didn't really matter unless you're on varsity. Then there's the beep test, which was the
it's like start level 1 and go beep, and you have to run from one end to the other, and it beeps again.
They used to have it in public schools. They would call it the standardized fitness test or something like that, but then they got rid of it because they called it child abuse. So
even though
but,
senior year we did it like 3 times.
Oh, it was like 4 times. Anyway, so you start on one side. It's probably, I don't know how many yards, like 20 yards maybe.
Yeah, that's about it. But then the beeps, there'd be less time in between the beeps.
So like it beeps and you run to the other side, and then it beeps again, and then you run back to the other side, and then you just go back and forth when it beeps. But the beeps get shorter and shorter, so each time you have to go a little bit faster, and it's like hardly, just like a little bit, just barely faster, but it is going a little bit faster. So by the end you're dying. Anyway, so I probably did the 2 mile in like 15 minutes, I'd say that.
Yeah, you beat me. You definitely beat me doing with the 2 mile that year.
Yeah. And then the beep test, I always sucked at the beep test.
Yeah. And we didn't do the 120s either. Like that's another thing we would do is 120s, where you go from one end of the soccer field to the other end. But because it was so smoky out that summer, we actually ended up not doing that.
Yeah, because the length of a soccer field is 120 yards, so we had to run 120 yards. Yeah, and I think the goal was like under
10 seconds.
Under 10?
No, 20. No, 16? No, 20. 20.
Well, I know that senior year
Actually,
when Mr. Tinkham was
honestly,
doing it, he wanted us to do it in like 14 or something like that.
yeah, but those were hundreds, not
Yeah, those were hundreds.
120s. No, I actually don't remember how long. Not 10. No, 10 seconds.
I
It
think it
was
was
like
16
yeah, 16, 16,
for 120.
maybe even 18, but I'm not 100% sure. But
Yeah.
we didn't do those until the year after that.
Well, we did them
Um,
freshman year, but then sophomore year we couldn't do them because it was too smoky.
yeah,
So we just
I was
didn't.
actually really happy about that because Josiah was like, "Oh, Carlos, you ready for 120s?" And I'm like, "No." And then
Well,
Mr. O'Rourke was like, so yeah, we're not gonna do 120s." And I was like, "Let's go!"
because they used to do freshman year. They did the 2 mile and then 120s on the same day, and
Mm-hmm.
then the next day they do the beep test. So it was like a brutal week of just running, and it was awful.
Mm-hmm.
But freshman or sophomore year, it was too smoky. So I think all we did was the 2 mile. I don't even think we did the beep test sophomore year.
Hmm. No. Well, we did the beep test sophomore year.
Yeah, maybe we did.
Yeah, we did because I did it, and that was like my first year. But
Okay. Yeah.
we also had this new kid in our class,
Ooh,
Arson. Dude,
yeah.
he didn't speak much English when he first came here since he was from
He was from Ukraine.
Ukraine, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he didn't really know much English, but he was still. I just remember he got on that soccer field and he was killing it. Like,
Yeah.
he was just destroying everyone.
He wasn't a foreign exchange student. He was a
He was adopted by like
he was adopted by an American family.
yeah.
And he went to our school.
Did I say foreign exchange kid?
No, I was just clearing it
Oh,
up.
okay, yeah. And I just remember there was this one game where one JV game he played where he scored like 4 goals.
Yeah.
And
We were playing against. All right, so we were playing against Summit Prep, I think, or maybe it was the other team.
Yeah, you told me.
Montana Academy, it might have been them.
I remember.
We're playing, and like we were losing by so much. I was usually a forward, and Mr. Tinkham's like, "Micah, go back and play on defense." And I was like, "Okay, I'll play on defense, no problem." So I was playing defense, and then he put Arson on forward. And Arson was just like, getting past everybody, and yeah, he got like a hat trick within like 10 minutes or something like that, and then we won the game because we were down by like 3 points.
Wasn't that the game where that one kid from the other team got that red card?
Yeah, because he started yelling at the ref.
Yeah, and then he cussed at him or something, and then
because the ref gave him a yellow, and then he's like, "What is this effing ball?"
And then he gave him the red card, and
the ref was like, "Hey, you can't talk like that." And then he's like, "Yes, I effing can, you piece of," And so then he gave him the red, and he's like, "You can go sit in the stands." And he's like, "Oh, okay."
Dude, it's so satisfying to watch like a toxic kid like that just absolutely get destroyed.
Well, their whole team was toxic, and then
yeah,
they were beating us. And they were like rubbing it into
was
like,
It was the first game against Montana Academy, and like I remember, like wasn't it like technically like a co-ed kind of team where it was like the guys and the girls together?
They had they didn't have enough guys.
This one girl, like one of her teammates, tried to pass it to this female player, and she gets hit in the stomach. She's like, "Oh, F," and I'm like, okay. I mean, like I sometimes cuss too, but like not when I get hit in the stomach with a. Like, it wasn't even that hard. It was just like, boop, and then, oh, like.
They had this one girl that I had to go against on wing, and she was, this might have been junior year, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking it's sophomore year, I can't remember. But she was pretty good. But, she's not going to be as good as me because.
no one outspeeds you.
Yeah, because I'm just fast. But she was like, all of her girls were pumping them up, like, "Oh, you could take them, yeah, let's go, girl, yeah." And then
little did they know.
I was going like kind of easy, because I didn't want to like Okay, this was the wrong mindset that I had, but I didn't. I was sophomore me, but I didn't want to like hurt her. I guess.
Nah, I think I was the same way that year. I accidentally like made a girl trip and fall like one year,
Yeah, but she
and
was
I
like,
was like,
she was beating me because I was kind of like, maybe I'll just let her go by. And then all of her girls were like, "Oh yeah, you got him," and I was like, and I got mad for some reason. I was like, "Oh crap, they think I suck." So then I started going like super hardcore, and yeah, it was
did
kind
you
of
did
just
you did you get the ball back at least,
well, not that time, but
dude?
no, she was good. Like she was good. I think she megged me like actually when I was going hardcore, megged me
Mm.
once. So she was good. She was a good soccer player.
Dude, you should have done what I did at that co-ed game that senior year. Just go ham and get like 2 goals.
Well, they put me in defense that game
Yeah,
because we were just
that and
throwing
you
them.
and you didn't get a goal that game. I
And
remember how
Lodine was like,
disappointed you were about that. You were so
well,
disappointed.
whenever I would go in, because I was part of the I wasn't a starter because we had like two separate teams because we had co-ed and then they had co-ed, so we had like a lot of players. So we just had two different teams that would swap
Mm-hmm.
out everybody. And whenever when I was going in, he's like, "I'm gonna put you at wing, but Micah, don't score." I was like, okay." So I was like, not scoring because we were already ahead by like 5 goals within like 5 minutes. Anyway, that's senior year, so we're still on sophomore year.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Um,
so I actually don't remember her like tripping you up at all, but I do remember this one. Like I was like running toward the ball, and then like stopped the ball, but then she kicked it out, and then kicked my foot, and somehow still tripped on me. And I was like, you okay? You good?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine." And I remember Colton was like giving me a hard time for like asking her that. Like he's like, "Oh, Carlos," ooh. And I'm like, dude.
Colton was great. I
Yeah,
like Colton.
he was. Yeah, he also played on that team that year. So did
Yeah, he was
Caden Bassnett as
a
well.
nitty.
And oh dude, remember um there was this one team. I don't know if it was the same team or not, Montana Academy, but like all these girls were like thirsting over Legend. Like, do
Oh,
you
that was
remember that? Like they were
that
all
was
like,
Montana Academy.
"Yeah, Legend,
It's just because they
woo!"
like his name because his name's Legend,
Yeah.
But that was
But that
great.
was like the funniest thing ever that year. And then Legend
I think
played
that was the
forward,
last year he
right?
played soccer. Yeah,
Legend
he played.
played forward that game. This man Megs like 2 guys
Yeah.
like in the defense. I don't think he got a goal, but we were asking Tinkham if he got a goal, we could all of us run up to him and like give him a hug, and he's like, "No," and I'm like, "No, come on, dude." And yeah, that was basically like we had a pretty good I was about to say KD, but pretty good win loss
Win
ratio.
loss.
Yeah. We did pretty good that year because we had a really good
Uh,
team.
we
But
went
then
9.
Mr. Tinkham had to like kind of step down for like personal reasons as
Well,
coach.
his
Well, come on, we don't have to say it.
what do you mean we don't have to say it? It's a touching moment. Come
Alright,
on, come on.
fine.
Your
I
dad's
don't
doing.
know if he's gonna if his
I don't care if
family's
he listens to this. I mean, it's just something that happened. Plus, he's not ashamed of it. Okay, his father died, and he was sad, and that was it. So he had to take a couple weeks off. So he took a couple weeks off to, mourn, obviously,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
that was it.
But the season hadn't ended yet, and so
The season didn't end yet.
the girls coach
The
at
girls
the
coach,
time, JR. Those of you
Mr.
listening,
J.R.
those of you who remember JR, I mean, he was
He
something
was a
else.
character. He was a character.
Yeah.
He was fun. No, he wasn't.
The toughest boss fight we've ever had to deal with. I literally heard boss music in my ear every
Um,
time he walked up to us.
so Jr. He was okay. I can respect him because he was like a morally good man, I guess. But for some reason, he just hated us.
Yeah.
He hated like
He just
males.
he was sexist to his own towards his own
Yeah, he was
sex.
sexist to us. Like he was like super nice to the girls, and not in a weird way, but in like a good
No,
way.
no, no, in a good way. Yeah, he
He
wasn't.
wasn't like that,
No, no.
but he was nice to them, and he was coaching them, and encouraging them, and he was a good coach. They won some championships,
Hmm.
but for some reason, he would coach us, and he would just like look super unhappy the entire time, and he just like everything that we did, he hated. And it's, bruh,
Well, he
you have
was
to
also
realize
like,
we're 16-year-old boys playing soccer. I mean,
yeah, we're just playing soccer. I remember so he actually did one practice for us,
yeah,
and that was the worst practice of the year. Now, granted, we didn't run a lot, I don't think, but I do remember like Caden Bassett had his coat on,
he had a
and
sweatshirt
he
on.
was like, yeah, sweatshirt or whatever, and he's like, dude, why do you have your coat on? Take it
JR,
off.
yeah.
And then me and some other guys like took our shirts off because it was like super hot outside. It was like 3:30 in the afternoon, which
Yeah.
is kind of like that time period is like when the sun like
It
gets at
it
its
was
hottest point of the day. And
it,
he just yells at all of us. He's like, "Put your shirt on right now!" Like I'm like, "Oh,
I
okay."
don't want to see any nipples on this field. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
put my shirt back
It
on, no
was,
problem.
and
But
then the sad thing is that his little BS policy carried out for the rest of the next 2 years.
well, because some of the parents, because
Oh
he can,
yeah, dude! Some of the parents like complain about it, didn't they?
they complain about how the guys would take our shirts off during practice. They're like, "Ah, well, if the girls can't take their shirts off, the guys can't take their shirts off." It's like, okay, I mean, you got a point. But then they wouldn't allow us to take our shirts off and then put pennies on. So we would have to wear shirts and pennies on the field to distinguish teams. Because, it used to be shirts and skins were the
Yeah,
teams, but then
yeah,
we had to start wearing colored
dude.
pennies.
The the last time we did shirts and skins, and I'm not gonna say this for senior year. I'm gonna just say it now. It was during our senior year at like when like they handed out the plaques and stuff for basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, we're gonna have it. Speaking of basketball, we should probably move on to our basketball. Or is there anything else about soccer you want to move on to?
Let's see, soccer. We did very good that season. I think that was the best JV record of like the school year because Mr.
Oh,
Tinkham was
easily.
coaching us.
Yeah,
Mr. Tinkham was
easily.
an awesome coach.
Okay. Before we like move on to basketball, there is one thing I want to say. So there we were doing this one drill where like all of us had a ball. Caden was at the goal, and all of us. I mean, I think we weren't too far away from the goal. We were actually relatively close to the goal, and
Yep.
like all of us had to. Well, actually, no. I don't think Caden was even at the goal. I think it was just all of us taking a free shot because we were like trying to practice our power and like our form
Yeah, because
with
we
kicking.
stank back then,
And
so we had
all of us guys, and I can say this boldly. None of us did well. All of us like either like rolled it
Yeah.
in barely. Like I remember mine like barely rolled in, and I was like yes, like, and I was like yeah, let's go. And then
because we didn't know how to like where to
score.
hit it on our foot. Like I remember
Yeah.
I kept hitting with my toes, and then like
And then it was
finally
just
junior year I figured out you're supposed to use the bone on the top of your foot to kick it in. Then you get all the power. But I didn't.
yeah.
I
And
was
I
like,
remember
I'm kicking it so hard, but it's not going anywhere. Why?
yeah, I did it on like the side of my foot, and it would always like roll to one side or another.
Yeah.
And I remember Mr. Tinkham was like, "All right, boys, I gotta tell you two things. One, I love you. Two, that was horrible."
Yeah. Yeah.
And like none of us took that personally. We all thought that was actually pretty funny because I mean we were all like, "Oh man," it was like,
That was
"Oh
terrible.
man, we suck. We really suck."
We did so bad.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean that was pretty much the end of our soccer season. We had a
yeah.
pretty good KD ratio and pretty good team.
We went 9-5.
9-5 for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, now I just gotta now what we gotta talk about is basketball. Now,
Basketball.
that
Oh
being my
yeah.
first soccer season, it was also my first basketball season too, and it was also my first time doing Sweet 16s.
Oh yeah, I love Sweet
That
16s.
that was rough, and also there was a lot of like controversial things that happened in our basketball
Well,
season. Like
yeah.
one of the problems was like there were like there was like an upper classman or two that like not a lot of us really liked. Um and so like we didn't really get along with them. I don't think the varsity team or like the JV team really got along that well. Cuz like
Sophomore year? Yeah.
yeah,
The
cuz
senior year were a
some
little.
of the older guys just weren't like that great. But I
Yeah.
remember like our C team, which was like I think it was like me, you, Legend,
Levi.
Levi,
Like
Skylar, Aaron,
Tyler.
Dominic,
Oh, Aaron.
Kelvin. Dude, okay.
Oh gosh, that was such a good team. I mean,
We
it
were
wasn't.
honestly, it was probably better that we were like on that team instead of varsity because I feel like varsity was like a more toxic
Well,
like
because
team.
it was a bunch of all the not all the varsity players, but a couple of them had like confidence issues, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So they were not like they were underconfident, but they were like so overconfident about what they could do, but
Yeah.
they sucked and they were so bad. But they were like, oh, I'm so good. I'm on varsity. I'm a senior. I'm 18. Look
Yeah.
at me. And it's like, bruh,
Yeah. That
everybody gets
was
to this point in their life. You got to just calm down there a little bit.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. And like I remember Andy even admitted himself, Andy, our head coach,
Yeah.
he said that like he couldn't wait for that season to be over. Like he was actually looking forward to that season of basketball being over.
Because it's just it was a bad environment.
Yeah,
For the team.
it really was. And also another like I guess personal struggle I had while doing basketball, and I guess it was a little bit of a struggle in soccer, but I think it showed more in basketball. I really didn't understand the values of like being on a team.
Yeah.
Like I just really didn't. And that's actually kind of one of the reasons why my parents thought it was a good idea if I played that year. That way I could understand. But if I mean if you know me at all, you know I always kind of learn things the hard way. Like very rarely are lessons are like is knowledge handed to me on a platter of like,
Yeah.
hey, don't be like this and don't be like that. But yeah, I just there were definitely like some issues behind the scenes with that I had,
Hmm.
but eventually like I say like I think it was like near the end of that year when I was like starting to like understand a little more. And I remember like there's this one game where like I mean okay, so at the time during my sophomore year, I it wasn't like a toxic relationship, but it just wasn't the best relationship between me and my parents.
Yeah.
And that frustration kind of bled on to how I would act like during like basketball practices and games. And there was this one game where I just didn't feel like playing at all. And I even like tried to explain to our coach that time that I was just having these issues at home, but he didn't really seem to care at all. I mean,
Was that um
that was when it was like when they like wanted me to like wear this
where
like wear like
yeah.
a women's jersey or something because
So
of
what
the
happened?
like number conflicts. Like me and this
Yeah.
other kid had the same number.
Yeah. So you wore like I don't know which number it was, but there was another kid that was on varsity, but he wasn't like no, he was on JV.
Yeah,
He
he
was
was
on
on
JV.
JV.
But
Yeah.
he wasn't like super good, so they moved him down to C squad with us for like a couple of games. But he had the same number as you, so they let him keep the number because he's older. So they were like, "Well, Carlos, you're gonna have to get a different number, but we don't have any more jerseys, so we're just gonna give you." And it was a woman's practice jersey,
Yeah, and like
but it had a number on it, so it was okay. But it was like
it was super garbage too. Like and I just remember like I just did not feel like playing that game at all, because I mean I just got home from my Hawaii trip. Now I might save this for a different podcast, but and you're thinking, oh, it's Hawaii, it's fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
like there are just some things that happened at home
We
that
could
just
we can
weren't.
save that for later.
Yeah, we'll save that for a different podcast, or maybe not, just kind of leave it out. But yeah, there was some stuff that happened at home, and so I'm sure if none of that, I'm sure if none of my home situations happened, then I would have, been more open-minded, less, hot-tempered at the time.
Yeah.
But the problem is that wasn't the case, and so I kind of had an attitude about it, and then I kind of got in trouble in it, and rightfully so, like just because they didn't really know me at all, they didn't really know what was going on with me, and so like I got in trouble obviously, and I remember they we had like some weird meeting about it, and I was like, okay guys, I'm sorry, and then blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And and like everyone was pretty chill with it. To be honest, I don't think anyone
I
really,
didn't care.
yeah,
Like,
I don't think anyone really cared.
because I mean, you refused to wear the women's practice jersey, and then Coach Falk freaked out. So then you sat at the end of the bench by yourself, and then he was like, nobody talked to him. I'm like, okay. Like during the game, he told us nobody talked to him. So you're just sitting there by yourself at the end of the bench. And then, we played the game. And I was thinking to myself, like, if I was in that situation, I probably would have wore the women's jersey just because I like playing so much. But, I mean, in your situation, I can understand why you wouldn't want to wear it.
Well, also like my like when I first like went to that school, my reputation like just wasn't the best. And I felt like by just kind of representing myself in a weird way like that, it would hinder my reputation as well. And like here's the thing, like I had like a little meeting with Andy and everything, and I like tried to explain to him like how I felt with the whole situation, but he obviously didn't care. And so like I still ended up getting in trouble. Yeah, and I still like ended up getting in trouble anyway. Like I'm not saying I shouldn't have gotten in trouble. I just kind of wish that they were just able to hear me out more. I mean, he said he heard me out, but it was clearly a lie, because he just really didn't.
I could see why you got in trouble. It's just you shouldn't have. The punishment that you got was a little bit too much.
Exactly. That I was just about to bring that up. So what I had to do was I had to do like 400 push-ups and like 50 sweet 16s.
Before we get to this, so Coach Falk pulled the leaders, air quote leaders, of the team, and like asked them what they thought. So he pulled me and Levi
and Legend and Mason.
Well, maybe not Legend. I think it was just me and Levi. But or maybe it was Mason. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
He talked to me personally, and he was like, "So, what do you think about this punishment?" Because remember, that was Zach Bassnett's first year coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so he was Coach Bassnett was there, and he thought it was a little much. But Coach Falk, he's been there for like 25 years.
Yeah. Coach Falk seemed like, I remember like when I talked to Coach Falk directly about it to just address the situation, like he didn't seem like too appreciated of me like just kind of admitting to my own mistakes, which is like, I mean, that's kind of what like being a man is in today's society, is like just trying to admit to your own mistakes and be honest about them. But even he didn't seem, I mean, I think he did appreciate it. It just didn't really seem like it at first based on like his facial expressions or stuff. But I don't know. He also didn't really know me that much at the time. But then after I talked to Zach, he was like saying how he appreciated me, like just like saying that, and he even like told me, like, Carlos, I'm looking forward to seeing you grow like throughout the years. And at the time, that was like probably the nicest thing anyone ever said to me.
Well, that's
really saying something, because I kind of had like a semi-toxic relationship with my parents at the time, and like even they didn't say anything nice like that to me. um yeah, my parents are complicated. They would try to motivate me, but they didn't really know how. But
Mm.
that's a whole different story for a different time. But
So he
yeah,
wanted Coach Falk wanted the team to decide your punishment,
yeah, and they
and
said some. Yeah, you go ahead. I don't
we
really
were
know
all like,
much.
oh, maybe like 5 Sweet 16s and like 50 push-ups. I'd say
Hmm.
that'd be about good. And then he was like, I like the Sweet 16s and the push-ups, but I think
We
we should
gotta.
multiply. We should
Yeah,
multiply it.
yeah,
And we were like, okay. So then we were like, okay. So then we left, and then he brought you out, and then he told you that you were going to do 400
yeah.
push-ups and 50 Sweet 16s.
Yeah, and
And
I
then,
my mind was like, what the F did I just hear? Like what in tarnation just went into my eardrums? And
yeah.
I remember, like, here's the thing, originally he was gonna have me do those defensive walks, like when you have to squat down
Ooh,
super low. He
those
was
are
gonna
so bad.
he was gonna have me do 50 of those.
Those
Like,
are so bad.
but Bassnet actually said, let's just have him do the Sweet 16s instead.
Yeah.
And yeah, those were pretty bad. Now, and I just remember going home and I was just super depressed,
Yeah, I
like,
remember that.
that day. Like, I like finished dinner within like 2 minutes, and I just went back down and just sat down and basically did nothing. And then I go to school, and I first told you about it. Like, I remember I walked up to you and I was like, so I have to do 500, not 400 push-ups and 50 Sweet 16s. And then I just sat in the chair right next to you, and that whole day I was just dreading it.
Well, when you
But
told me that, I was like, that's ridiculous. That's way too much. So, yeah, I had a little meeting with Coach Falk, and I was like, hey, that's a little much. And he's like, I think it's necessary. This is a discipline program. We're here to play games, not to pout about um, wearing jerseys or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but I could understand where his team mindset could come in and how you want him to be part of the team and, I'll do anything for the team, coach, and blah, blah, blah. But you can't, like that punishment is a little much.
mhm.
Like,
Yeah, like, here's the thing, like, kids like that age too do like way worse stuff. I mean, they, like, I wasn't like on drugs or anything. Like, if I told someone that I did 400 push-ups and 50 Sweet 16s, I bet what would run through their mind is, oh, did you like get caught smoking weed or something? Like, did something happen? And I'm like, oh no,
oh,
I just decided to
they'd,
not wear a jersey
they'd kick you off the team if you smoked weed because that
because
happened.
that happened to another kid
And they got kicked off
before.
the team. Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway,
But
let's see. We should probably describe Sweet 16s. So,
yeah, just
I
for
mean,
a
most
little
people
bit of
listening to this can probably
context.
understand, but some might not.
Yeah,
So, Sweet 16, kind of like the beep test, but not. So you start on one side of the basketball court, but
the
it's the short
sideline.
side,
Yeah, the sideline.
the sideline, and you run to the other sideline, and that would be one, and then you run back to the other sideline, that's two, and then you do it back and forth 16 times, and you have to do it in like a minute 10 or something like that, and it doesn't sound that bad. I remember when I first heard Sweet 16, I was like, cool, that's easy, but it's hard. It's harder than it sounds.
Yeah, and you have to, and you're timed on it too. And like, as the years went by, like, our standard for what your Sweet 16 time should be would, like, the timing would get lower and lower, to
Yeah, I
the
know.
point,
It
like,
kept affecting it.
yeah, that really sucked. And yeah, I mean, I guess practice was practice, I guess. But do you also want to talk about what happened during Central Bible that one
Um,
time?
okay, so let me start out with freshman year, Sweet 16. Like the time was like a minute 20, and Jared, you remember Jared, right?
Yeah, Jeff fight.
He could do the time. He could do a Sweet 16 in like
A minute.
55 seconds.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, whoa, dude, that's so fast. Now, it's like the time is like a minute, and the fastest guys can do it in like 52 seconds. And it's like, that's fast, but it's pretty much normal nowadays because, so we're getting.
Because
I
we
feel
were
like
we were
school-
getting pretty fast. I remember the fastest I ran mine was 57 seconds.
Yeah.
Now that was at a time where I struggled, like my sophomore year, I struggled to make 130, and I
Yeah.
made 57 my senior year, just a couple years after. I mean, that was like pretty crazy to me. And Coach Falk was like, he's like, "Wow, good job, man!" Like my senior year, but
Yeah.
but
Okay,
yeah,
so Central Bible. Is that the girls' practice that we had?
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
This is a fun one.
No, it sucked, man.
Okay.
So practice with them wasn't. I mean, it wasn't that fun because like the reason it wasn't that fun is because we had to switch between the men's basketballs and the girls' basketballs, and they're all different like size. They're like smaller in terms of size and weight, and so just shooting them and like dribbling them just felt unnatural, and so I just didn't feel like it was really needed to do that. And I don't really think anything of it. I never said anything bad to any of them or about any of them. I was just like, whatever. And then the practice afterwards, Andy pulls out a chair and he's like lecturing us and saying that we were being like disrespectful. And I mean, didn't you kind of get in trouble about something?
Okay, so here's the story. We're practicing, and this one girl wanted me to like pair up with her and practice with her. She's like, "Hey, Mike, you want to team up?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm already with Dominic," but I wasn't. So I walked over to Dominic like, "Hey, you got somebody?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, sweet." So I feel like she got offended by that because I didn't want to be with her because she wasn't like the prettiest girl and she was a little overweight. But not that that means anything. I judge people based on their character and personality.
Yeah, but you were. I mean, you were just kind of like that was like a little bit of bonus like things you were saying, not the main thing. But anyway.
Yeah, anyway, so we were practicing, and I guess I wasn't showing enough emotion because when the girls' coach would talk to me, I'd be like, "Okay, yeah." I wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." I just kind of.
I mean, did they honestly expect that from any of us? Do they expect like a 16-year-old guy to be like, "Woo, yeah, let's go"?
I
Woo!
don't know.
Like, come on.
Somehow
man.
they just didn't like me, and I was just playing basketball like I usually do.
We were just doing what we were doing, man.
So they didn't. The girls didn't like me. None of them liked me, and they just for some reason hated me. And I was like, "Okay, whatever." But then, what happened was, there was a basketball game on a Saturday.
You weren't there, right?
I wasn't there. I wasn't even there. And
I don't think I was there either because it was just a varsity game. Yeah, so I wasn't even there either.
I think it was JV varsity, but we were on C squad, so so like the JV guys were there. But anyway, so I wasn't there, but I come in on Monday, and Andy's like, "I heard you were saying disrespectful things to the women," and I was like, "What?" When?
Yeah. So
he's like, "This last Saturday," and I'm like, well,
"Yeah,
I wasn't there."
So yeah, like apparently Andy was saying that some guys were like speaking badly about women or whatever on like the stands in that game, and like some of the other girls overheard and like complained about it. There's two things I gotta say to this. I mean, for one, I feel like it's just kind of a waste of energy to, like, why would you waste your energy being offended by people who, like, don't respect you that much than spend more time with the people who actually respect you and care about you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and the second thing is, like, me and you, like, we weren't there, and so we had no idea what was going on. And I remember Andy was like waiting for some kid to like admit to like saying something. And like Josh was saying, I might have been involved, but he said that Josh wasn't because, he was like playing basketball.
Because he was actually playing.
Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, okay." So, yeah, I mean, I could give Josh some credit for doing that, even though
he was trying to take the
fall, Yeah,
And
he also. I don't think Josh like really knew what was going on. Just like how some like me and you didn't know what was going on either.
well,
And
cause
I'm just waiting for this random kid to fess up, and I think I know who is
yeah,
the
we
guilty
figured out
one,
who it was.
but we're not gonna say his name. But
Yeah, but we do
yeah,
know. Well, he was saying, because he liked this one girl, but she started dating this other guy, so he was upset. So then
and
he
then
was
he just
like,
started saying bad stuff about her, and so we
yeah,
weren't
he was
even
pretty
talking.
upset about it.
So yeah, we weren't even like the stuff he was saying wasn't as bad as like Andy was saying that it was.
And then, so for some reason, they mistaked him to be me. So they were like, "Oh, Micah said this," and then the girls' coach comes up
Honestly,
to
wait, it's probably
Andy.
because both of you wore glasses.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, how
Well, yeah.
much like
And he's
that?
taller.
That's
He's
the
taller
systemic
than you.
racism right
He
there.
has a
Thinking all these
different
guys with
he
glasses look the same.
glassism.
Glassism right there. But yeah, but Andy gets with me and he's like, "I heard you said bad things," and I'm like, "I wasn't even there because it was a Saturday, and the C
Take
Squad wasn't playing,
so
so I
take
wasn't even
that.
there." And Andy's like, "That's a good point." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a good point."
But yeah, I also remember
We had to do conditioning.
so yeah, okay, so here was our condition. It was like 25 minutes, right? Of conditioning. So what we had to do was run 10 laps of down and backs. And when we mean by down and backs, we mean from one baseline to the other baseline. But it wasn't
Well,
just
it
the
was,
baseline. We had to
you wanted
touch the wall. We had to touch
yeah,
the
you wanted to do
wall.
wall.
And then while we were doing that, the other group was doing push-ups until they finished. And I actually do remember this one time. I was like, "All right, boys, let's do these push-ups." And I said that in the most depressing voice I could manifest. And then you were like, "Okay, Carlos." And then Zach was like, "Yo, Micah, was that respectful to say to him?" And you were like, no."
Well, because I was fed up. I was like so
Yeah.
tired, and I was feeling really kind of crappy. So yeah, you said let's do these push-ups. I was like, yeah, like we always do, Carlos. And I did say it a little disrespectful, I will say.
Yeah.
And then Zach was like, Micah, you gotta be nice to people. And then later on, I texted Zach. And I was
Yeah.
like, hey,
No,
I
I
feel really bad.
thought you texted me.
I did. I texted both of you. And I said, hey, I feel really bad. And I texted Zach, and then I texted you, and then I told Zach that I texted you and said I was sorry. So I just felt bad about it. So
Yeah.
I felt like it was the right thing to do.
Well, yeah, it's not as bad as like, I mean, at least you had to text someone saying they're sorry. I had to say I'm sorry and then run for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that happened during basketball. And honestly, I think our team overall was just fun to be around with because we had Levi and Aaron and Skylar and
Yeah.
like they were all great guys. And we did have we had some talent on our team too. Like we definitely had some talent. And during the end of the year, I feel like I kind of came back a little bit and was able to be a more respectable person, I'd say, just because I wasn't like as angry as much all the time. And that was also mostly because things at my household were dialing down a little bit too. But yeah, I mean, the end of the year wasn't too bad. You know, we had like a nice trip to end it off, and
yeah.
yeah,
Wait, where'd we go?
we went to Mission.
Oh, I
Yeah,
couldn't go because it
Mission.
was on a Saturday.
Oh man.
Our mission is to beat Mission. I remember that was false.
Our mission is
that year because they destroyed us.
that previous year.
We played them first game because we play everyone twice.
Mm-hmm.
They played us first game. We lost by like 40 points.
Oh
and
no!
Like, our mission is to beat Mission by the end of the year because they were our last game.
But we didn't. I don't think we
went
did.
over to Mission. We trashed. Yeah, we were garbage.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time. But we didn't get them next time because
there
was no more mission to fulfill next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
so yeah,
sophomore year, I'd say it wasn't that bad of a season.
Well, no, we're not done quite yet.
We're not done yet? What
else were you talking about just basketball or like our whole sophomore year? Okay, just basketball. Yeah, go ahead and do your thing. I thought you were talking about the whole sophomore year. I'm like, whoa, we haven't even got to the classes
we haven't
yet.
even got to the juicy stuff yet.
Yeah.
Wait, have we though?
Some of it.
Okay. Let's see. Basketball ended. I'd say besides the crap that happened with the coaches and the women, I think it was fine. Like I had a pretty fun year. Um, let's see what else with Christmas banquet. Did you go sophomore year to Christmas banquet?
No, that was when I went to Hawaii that year, but I heard it.
Oh,
I heard it wasn't as good that year.
so that was the first time that they had a like club
DJ Phillips or
DJ Phillips.
yeah.
They had club music, so it was. I mean, uh, it just didn't really feel right. It didn't feel the same as it did the year before. It wasn't like classy anymore. It was more,
No. It was more like group partying kind of thing and not
yeah,
like one-on-one dancing kind of thing.
yeah.
And so that kind of
So
hindered the experience that year a little bit.
yeah, so I think we did it at the same place we did it freshman year. I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
Um, so let's see what happened. Something happened.
Wasn't there like Mario Kart over
No,
there?
that was junior year, wasn't it?
No, I don't. I think Mario Kart was their sophomore and junior year,
Maybe it was. No.
which is basically where all the single guys go, like you
Yeah,
and.
actually, I think it was Mario Kart. Yeah, so I went over, played Mario Kart for a little bit, and
Mhm.
walked around and sat at my table and ate some more chicken, and like that's literally what all the guys were doing. We were just sitting there,
Yeah.
and the girls, they were out on the dance floor, but sometimes they weren't. And it's like, this sucks. I mean, the food was good, but anyway, so we went bowling afterwards, and we went bowling as a group. So there's probably like 6 of us, 3 guys, 3 girls. We all went bowling. Well, for sophomore class. And Mason was like, I mean, he doesn't bowl. None of us bowl, so I'm not going to say like he was the
Bad,
predicted winner. But
but
he
you
was
like.
in the lead. It was against me and him, and he was in the lead. And he was just having fun, but I of course made it into a competition. So I was like, I gotta beat Mason. I'm gonna beat Mason. So then sophomore me, I was competitive. So he was ahead of me by quite a bit, but then I got like 3 turkeys in a row, which you get a strike, and then you get another strike, and then you get another strike. That's a turkey,
Yeah.
and then you do it. So I had like 9 strikes in a row. All the girls were like, "Oh, Micah, you're so good," and they were like copying my bowling style. You know how you have like how you form when
Yeah,
you bowl.
yeah.
They were
But
copying it, and they're like practicing it in the other lane. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm so good." Oh yeah.
and then
But
you
yeah,
actually beat Mason. I remember
I
you
beat
wrote in
Mason.
your Revis Chronicles, "Suck it, Mason."
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a banquet. Let's actually
Yeah,
go
that's
over
the
the
banquet.
the seminars that happened before we go into the actual classes.
Okay, sure.
So for those of you who don't know our school, like after Christmas, we would do these like week and a half long seminars.
After Christmas.
Yeah, after Christmas, and I remember. So freshman year, we actually did one with our history teacher, Mr. Venman, and
Yep.
we would do like this fun little thing where we like build like castles and have like there was like a type of currency in this
Uh,
makeshift game.
I can't remember what the currency was called. Oh, shillings or something.
Yeah.
I
And
can't remember.
then we were and then we would also do like finance education as well
Oh
during
yeah,
that freshman year.
finance
And we watched
with Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey. And I
Yeah.
remember whenever Dave Ramsey was on there, I mean, it was like, yeah, whatever. But then like his like daughter or whatever, and her just Legend was imitating her excessive hand movement and
She
everything she
did a
would
lot with
do.
her eyebrows too. She had a lot
Yeah.
of movement.
But then there was a third guy, if you remember, and all of us were like cheering for him because
Is that the black guy?
yeah, the black guy.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
those of
he
you
was
who don't
great.
know, our school is like the most anti-racist place ever. Like
Well,
we
it's not like
actually,
they teach it. It's just that okay, it's Montana,
yeah,
so it's not like there's not a whole lot of black people there. I would say,
So
it's like a white state. Like there's a lot of white people in that state.
yeah, that is pretty true.
So we weren't racist. I would like not at all.
We were cheerful for whenever we saw him. Though we were
Most
like,
people in
"Yeah,
Montana
let's
aren't
go."
racist. I would say there's a few
Yeah,
racist people in
I
Montana, but I'd say
actually
most.
my mom's stepmom is actually like really racist. So yeah,
Uh,
that's like the one racist person who I know exists in Montana.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, in the school that we were in,
No one was. Yeah, no one was racist.
nobody was racist. Like
No.
we loved black people. Not to
Yeah.
be like, not to sound like that, but you know.
Yeah, we don't want to sound like weird, but we just thought they were like really cool. But
I have
anyway,
I have a couple black cousins. They're really cool because
um,
my uncle married a black woman and then had children. So
oh nice.
yeah.
Um,
And then Uncle Frank. Oh, I love
Uncle
Frank.
Frank.
He's
Jacob's
from
uncle. No,
he's from South
this is
Africa, I think.
this is Jacob's uncle, right?
Jacob's uncle. Yeah.
Uncle Frank.
You ever met Uncle Frank?
No, I never met.
Oh, you
I
gotta meet
haven't.
Uncle
I
Frank.
haven't. I haven't met Uncle Frank or Uncle Curtis.
I never met Uncle Curtis because he's a Canadian.
Yeah.
But Uncle Frank like lives in Kalispell, and he's like, oh, he's so funny. He's a great guy, and he has like a French accent because he's from a French colony in Africa. So it's like, oh, so good. Anyway, black guy in Dave Ramsey's finance seminar.
Was like the highlight of that seminar, pretty much.
We-
And
yeah.
at the end of that seminar, we were doing this thing where like a bunch of like kindergartens or whatever would like we would like sell things, but it wasn't like real money. It was like
We had a fair.
it was fake currency. And I remember you and Jacob were doing some shady business practices. to
What
say
do
the
you
least.
mean shady business practices? We were selling root beer floats.
Well,
Man.
weren't you also like trying to get some kids to like, hey, if we'll give you this free root beer float if you vote for our castle to be the best one.
Okay, so we built castles, and we had this little fair on the last day of the seminar, and it was like kindergarten through second grade would come in, and they'd like buy stuff from us, and whoever made the most money wins. But we also built these castles, so whoever got the most votes on their castle from the kids would win too. And yeah, me and Jacob were selling root beer floats, and we would like call a kid over and be like, hey kid, you see that little ticket in your hand? Go over to the box and we'll give you a free root beer float. And they go over and they do it, and they put it in the wrong box. They voted for somebody else. They came back like, I want a float. And me and Jacob were like, oh crap, we gotta give them root beer float because we told them we would if they put it in the box.
And
It's
well,
upsetting.
did you tell him that he put it in the wrong one?
No, we were just like, whatever, kid, here's your root beer float. Backfired on us.
Man.
Or
Oof.
there was a castle that was like right in front of you when you first walked in the door, and the kids thought that their ticket was like that was their like entry fee, so they had to.
And
put
so
their
they
ticket
all
in
put
that
their
box.
ticket in that box.
So that castle got the most votes because it was the first one. So they all thought that was like the entry
Okay.
box for their ticket.
You
so-
remember the like little item that I would make?
your ninja stars?
Yeah, dude. So I went on I just looked up a YouTube video. Like I didn't know how to make paper ninja stars, so I went on YouTube and I just looked it up. And what ended up happening was
I think I got
like-
hit by a ninja star.
I made like 50 of them. Like 50 of them. And they sold out faster than the PS5s sold out. I mean,
They were gone.
they were really and I was thinking, dang, I should have made like a bunch more. We could have got bank. And I remember all these kids were running around the gym throwing ninja stars at each other. And I remember what this one kid did, and he actually seemed like really smart. What he did was he bought like 10 of them
Yeah.
and then sold them for even more. So he was
Scalper.
a literal scalper.
Sold out all the ninja stars and then sold them at double price. Scalper.
Scalper.
Yeah, we just sold people floats. We sucked.
Yeah, we did sun-kissed soda, so we had like sun-kissed floats. which
Oh
was
yeah.
kind of crappy because it didn't like the name just doesn't sit well with kids. You know, kids are always like root beer floats, yay, like that
Yeah,
kind of
Sun
way.
Kiss is sus.
Yeah. um, and then let's see. I mean, yeah, that was pretty much our seminar freshman year. Kind of going back to freshman year, but sophomore year, what we actually ended up doing was we went over like creation versus evolution,
With
and
Mrs. O'Rourke.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that was you know, that was pretty interesting. I'd say
It
it
was
wasn't
fine.
wasn't too bad. It was just
I
fine.
I learned some stuff. It
hmm
was fine.
And we would just draw fun things on our whiteboards and stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
actually no. There's one more, yeah, and that was pretty much a sophomore one. I don't really want to talk too much about that one, but freshman one. I don't know if you remember during the Dave Ramsey video, these high school kids were
Yeah.
getting interviewed, and
No.
there's this one kid
Yeah.
who was like there was a group of kids who were like being asked what do they want to do after high school, and a lot of them were like go to college, get a job, go to
Yeah.
college, get a job. It's so like all of us just started laughing so hard after we heard this one. So here's this one. So I'm gonna try to imitate his voice too. I would like to go and teach kids karate because I want to open up my own karate dojo. And I remember,
What was his name?
we called him Sensei Sanchez.
Yeah, because his last name was Sanchez.
So we called him
Sensei
the
Sanchez.
Sensei Sanchez.
Oh man, that was like a joke.
I remember we and I made so many memes on that. Like those of you who don't know, like I made a lot of personal like memes and I would send them to friends. I never made them public because I thought some of them were like kind of mean to certain people.
Like
Dude, I would like grind out the memes like.
I know.
And like
And
a lot of them,
like, oh, funny meme.
a lot of them like weren't that funny, but some of them were actually like pretty good. And so yeah, and then I mean, what else do I have to say? Oh yeah, so like our sophomore year was also Mr. Hashley's last year, and I asked him. I think we already talked enough about him, but anyway, that was basically his last year. And that year we were introducing like a new house system or something. And I remember thinking this is the worst idea I have ever heard in my life.
Okay, all right, hold up. I was actually in the house system, so like I know more. I think I do anyway. So we used to have a student council like every other school. You know, a student council, and each class votes in a president and a vice president, and then like a representative or something like that. And so they decided that, you know what, we're getting a new principal and we're getting that we already had a new superintendent. We had Mr. Marsh came sophomore year, but anyway, so we had a new principal. So they were like, well, we should switch it up and have a house system because this new principal was coming from a high school that had a house system. So they were originally going to do a draft, like a house draft. Like they would pick the leaders, and then the leaders would have like a draft and pick the students. And so they picked me to be a chapel. I don't know why, but they picked me to be a chapel, and I was with Jacob. And
a
Jacob
chaplain or a chaplain, you mean?
Or chaplain, whatever. Well, they called it chapel. Not the event, but they called me a chapel, like Chapel Micah. Anyway, so yeah, I guess the right term is chaplain. So I was a chaplain, and for some reason they didn't like student council. I don't know why they didn't like it. The school didn't like it. So with the house leadership program, the reason why it's still going on, I'm pretty sure. The reason why it doesn't go very well is because the students have no control over it. And it's just another way for the school to have more control over the students. So what I suggested was, why don't we have, because, we have houses. and there's probably like I don't know, like 30 people in a house. So, and there's like 6 houses or 8. There's 6. Yeah, 6 houses. So I was saying, why don't we just have the houses, like the people in the house, vote in who they want for captain and vice captain? But I mean, the school didn't like that. Anyway, so let's see, I was actually kind of excited to be a house captain, or house leadership, because we got to draft our the people that and this is after sophomore year. This is before junior year. We got to draft the people that were in our house, but then they canceled that because they thought that some people would get hurt because they're picked last. And I said, why don't we just not tell them when they were picked? I mean, they don't need to know which place they were picked at. They don't need to know that. But they just thought it would hurt people's feelings. And I feel like it wasn't like a failure, but I just feel like it was more of a disappointment because it wasn't as good as people thought it was. Like, I thought house was going to be good when I first heard it. I was like, oh yeah, house, that sounds like fun. But it just ended up being just another way for the school to have more control over the students, I would say.
Yeah, I guess we could go into more detail about how our house system went like later on, but that was like kind of discussing the build up to like when it happened.
We could tell that for junior year because that was a junior year thing. I guess.
That was when it officially started. So let's see. So let's go over the actual classes, I'd say.
Okay.
So let's start with the one that we would do every day, and that was chemistry class.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
I remember, like, Mr. Hembroff was actually like a pretty cool teacher. Actually, I mean, every now and then he would yell at Legend, but
yeah,
it wasn't that bad. And I remember what
he was like Mr. Snyder, where they're pretty calm most of the time, but they go 0 to 100 like instantly. So like they're calm, and then it builds up, but you can't tell that it's building up, and then they just like, you better listen to me because I'm the teacher. I'm here to teach you stuff. Okay.
Okay.
And then like 5 minutes later, everything's normal again.
Okay. Yeah, they're literal ticking time bombs. But I remember every Friday we would like do research on like a personal project, and I actually did do some research on some stuff. I don't really remember what I did though, but I also remember every Friday he would put on these guys from YouTube, the slow-mo guys.
Oh yeah.
And so we would watch like really cool like slow motion stuff. Like we would watch, I think the one I remember is an eye, like a human eye closing, and it was the most disgusting thing ever because it was like a full-on zoom in.
Super zoomed.
Yeah. And then another one was like a balloon, like a water balloon getting popped, and like you see like the shape of the water was still in formation as the balloon was being popped. And when the balloon was popped, it didn't like explode. It just like vanished pretty much. Like it would like shrink and then shred into multiple pieces pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty much that, and
I don't know if I learned anything in chemistry that year.
Yeah.
Like, he taught stuff, it's just I didn't learn anything.
Yeah, I don't really remember much either, to be honest. And then we had Mr. Snyder. This was our first year having Mr. Snyder too, and he was actually pretty chill. He didn't seem to get mad. Like I know Mason, when he was like in advanced math at the time, he was like talking about how Mr. Snyder will get mad every now and then.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really believing him at first because it hadn't happened yet. But then, like, halfway through the year, Josiah says something, and it didn't really... He didn't say anything bad. He's like, why don't you just send Levi out to the hallway? And then, what does he do, Micah?
Okay, well, hold up. Some background, just so we know the tone of this. Levi was gone, but we took a test. So he was gone for the test. and he had to take the test. So Mr. Snyder couldn't show us our tests because he thought that we would tell Levi the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And Josiah was like, well, why don't you just send Levi out into the hallway?
And that sent him off.
And that set Snyder off, and he started yelling.
Mm-hmm. And he was yelling right as Josiah's face too. And here's the thing: when he first started yelling at Joe, I thought he was like being sarcastic at first. But then
we all did.
And so I started kind of laughing a little bit, and then his face turns red. And I was like, oh no.
That made him yell. Because he was like, I'm the teacher. I'm the one who's going to decide what we do. And then we all started laughing. And he's like, no, this isn't funny. And we're like, that was, yeah. Anyway, that was Mr. Was that sophomore year?
Yeah, that happened sophomore year. And then, what was another class? We also had, I didn't take Spanish,
Oh my gosh!
But, yeah, I don't.
Sucked.
Yeah, I don't know if you. Yeah, Spanish is Spanish. You know, you gotta.
Some Spanish classes are fun, but that one was garbage.
Yeah, and so we had Mr. Venman. We had Mr. Venman for history. Really, the only highlight was doing Kahoot with him, which was pretty fun. And then Mr. Rourke, our Bible teacher. Oh, dude. Mr. Rourke's a Bible class. Now, don't get us wrong. Like, we don't find the Bible or, God or anything to be boring. It was just him, whenever he taught it.
I'm pretty sure he was bored. He was bored himself.
He clearly was. Because remember, we were all, like, taking turns reading from a passage. And I actually lost my spot because I was, like, zoned out, of course. And then I was like, wait, where are we at? And I look at Mr. Rourke, and then Mr. Rourke looks up, and he's like, wait, where are we at now? And so, like, even he wasn't, like, paying attention that much.
Well, because it was the way he taught it, and he wasn't getting into it. Mr. Tinkham, because he was our Bible teacher junior year, when he taught Bible, it was boring just because he would talk about so many things. And, like, you were getting flooded with information. It was like, oh, he's talking about so much. I can't comprehend all of it. Mm-hmm. So I just zoned out. So, but Mr. Tinkham was like into it. He was having fun, I think.
Mm-hmm.
O'Rourke, he was up there and all right, so today we're going to read about Luke.
So remember when Jacob like raised his hand, he's like, so when are we going to actually use this in our life? And Mr. Rourke was like, well, he was like, well, no, that wasn't government. That was Bible class.
Was that Bible?
No, it was okay.
Us to find the parts of speech in the Bible. He wanted us to find the nouns and the verbs, and Jacob was like, why is this useful for me reading the Bible?
And then Mr. Rourke was like, well, like he didn't really have an answer for that. So like even he like kind of knew that it was useless, and he was probably just told by the school, just teach him this, and Mr. Rourke just kind of like
curriculum.
Yeah. So yeah, that was our Bible class, and then literature class was okay, I guess. I had Mr. Venman.
I think we all had Mr. Venman that year.
Yeah, and he was not too bad.
Remember that one girl that used to get coffee all the time, and she loved moonshines, like the coffee moonshine, not like actual moonshine,
not real coffee.
Yeah, it was. She liked coffee moonshines, which it was literally just like maybe like barely any coffee, and then a crap ton of sports drinks, and then like whipped cream or something. I don't know, but
yeah.
So she'd have like 2 or 3 of those a day, which is really unhealthy. And there's one time she was in class, and I think that she like almost had a heart attack because she was like sitting there. She's like, "Oh, I don't feel good. My heart's racing, Mr. Venman." And he's like, "You feeling okay?" And she's like, "No." And then she goes to the office, and she had like really high beats per minute for her heart. So then she went home, and then I mean, she was fine. But
I've heard stories of like some people like drink like certain energy drinks, and then they die because their heart like can't take it. And I'm
Energy
like,
drinks are so bad for you.
yeah, they're pretty bad. I only drink pre-workout to get them gains, you know.
I only
But
drink Sprite and water.
unless if it's 7-Up,
Unless you go to Dairy Queen and they're like, "Is 7-Up okay?" No, it's not.
and
Okay, I want a Sprite.
yes, 7-Up is the worst Sprite.
I mean, it's okay, but it's just not as good as Sprite.
Nowhere near as good. Let's see. So that happened. Oh yeah. I think those are pretty much all the main classes we had. We didn't have Mr.
Yeah.
Tinkham that year.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
I do remember. So this was my first year doing music too. So I was in choir, and
Yeah.
we had these choir tuxes, right? And I remember I forgot to turn mine in. I'm like, oh shoot, I can't take my finals if I don't turn this in. And so what I did one time is so here's what happened. I had a study hall and then lunch, like back to back. And so what I did was, this was sophomore year, and you're not allowed to like sneak out of the school. So I snuck out of the school, drove all the way home, and I was like, oh, I really hope my parents aren't home, because I don't think my parents would have gotten mad at me, but I would really hate to have to explain to them that my idiot self forgot to bring the tux back. Yeah. And I sped all the way back to the school. And here's the thing. There was like a garbage truck like right in front of me. And so I used that as cover.
Bruh.
To like, and I parked at like the very, very back, like behind a giant truck, so that no one could like, so that few people could like notice a car going in. And what I did was I did not bring my backpack in with me, because it's kind of, and I actually remember leaving it at the school, so it seemed like, oh, I'm just getting something out of my car for 45 minutes. And yeah. I walked back in, and like there was no teacher there or anything, so I actually did get away with that.
There was one time sophomore year, we were having a Christmas band concert, and I was wearing my tux, and I lost my bow tie.
Ooh.
And I get to the school. I didn't realize it till I was like at the school. I'm like, oh crap, I don't have my bow tie. So I went up to the upstairs room where they have the tuxes, and I opened up the thing, and I reached into a tux, and I stole a bow tie and closed it back up. And then senior year, when I had to return my tux, I had two bow ties because I ended up finding the other one. So I kept one of the bow ties, so I still have a bow
tie. Wait, hold on. Do I hear something? I think you're getting swatted right now. Is the FBI at your door right now?
Yeah, Blake Restivo's at my door.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Blake and Ryan, they're gonna be fun to talk about during the next podcast. I guess we can end this podcast with our. I don't want to talk about all the final exams because they were the same, but I want to talk about one of them, and I think you know which one I'm mentioning.
Talking about chemistry?
Yeah, the chemistry final.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
So basically, what Mr. Hembroff did was like, so if you do this little like assignment, you can get 20 extra points for your final. And so obviously, I did it because I suck at taking tests, man. Well, and even then, I did bad. Everyone did bad. But he gave us a 20% curve.
Yep.
No cap, 20%.
It was awesome.
It was the best thing ever. Because I remember going home, and I was like so depressed that day. And then I open Infinite Campus on my phone, and I see there's a notification of like, oh no, what? No. And I click on it, and it says I passed, and I was like, let's go! Let's go! I definitely.
Yeah.
And I knew when I first saw it, I was like, okay, he curved it. He definitely curved it.
Well, because we graded our own.
Yeah.
So he had us grade them after we did it. I got like a 49%. And then he returns them the next day, and he's like, so we all passed. I'm like, what? I look at it, I got like a 73. I'm like, what? Whoa, that's cool. So, yeah, he like mega curved it. And then one of Girls blew it. She almost blew it.
Yeah,
Okay,
so like what
let's
happened was
moonshine lady again.
before we
Before we
actually
took the
took
final.
that test, she actually like went up to him and asked him, "So is it true that you curve the finals?" And I'm like, "Don't say that." Like,
Yeah, what the crap is wrong with you? Like, don't tell him that he stinks at teaching. Like, come on.
uh, it was like
Anyway,
it was also like his last year teaching there too, so he
yeah,
probably just didn't care and was like, "Yeah, whatever. I'll just pass these as a go out with a bang."
yeah, I loved him. That was best final of my life.
Best final easily. So yeah, I think that was pretty much it, right? In terms
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what was going on.
We
So
can talk more about house during
during our
our
junior
junior,
year in the retreat there.
which should be coming up in probably about a week.
Yeah.
So
So
we're
yeah,
gonna try to do these weekly.
yeah. So yeah. If you listen this far, thank you a lot. I doubt many of you did, but yeah, thank you.
I mean, if you did, that's nice.
Very nice. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll catch you up on our junior year podcast.
Junior
Right.
year coming out in a week. So
Maybe. Yeah. All right. Have a good one.